Clark Middleton was, every time he walked through the door, every time he came to play in our little sandbox, he brought such sunshine and joy and gratitude, talent. And so that is irreplaceable. It cannot be taught. It doesn't come with the profession. It is just a kind of temperament that God stamps with us, on to us. And Clark had that in Deuces. The joy in itself was just endeared him to all of us. Certainly to me. I remember talking about him. He was a writer as well. Did a lot of theater as well. So, whenever I get to talk to people who've been on the boards and who know the language and the lingo, the traditions, the stories, the history, Clark was that guy. And it was almost sort of like being an old veteran of war or of the sea, a pirate at sea. You get to talk to the old guys who, and Clark was not old. We lost him far too young. But that said, he'd lived life and he'd experienced things, the good and the bad that goes along with this business. And so just to have that kind of camaraderie and fellowship was a joy. And as much as we miss him, we have seasons of him doing his magic on the screen with us. And what a joy he brought. I think that, to me, really, he was my, you think about some of the people who were not the core cast, but that who stood out more than the others. Clark is right up there. Of course, Mr. Kaplan is another. We've had these wonderful, wonderful players. Clark is chief among them. There's a wonderful line in Shakespeare, it's Hamlet, where he talks about the actors, and he says, "Be sure to use them well." He's given some advice, for they are the abstracts and brief chronicles of the time. And Clark was that, and in so being, he becomes eternal, and we're glad to have him captured here, among other places. But what charmed me this season was LaChance playing Anne, and to see a romantic side of Reddington that we had yet to see that longing was still there, and to have such a beautiful and brilliant actor as LaChance, who's a wonderful singer, actor. I've known her for very many years, and to have a friend, come and play again with us was just wonderful. So that stood out for me. Well, it's an interesting thing. I can't remember. It was one of the last episodes of of season 7, I believe. And Reddington says, "We got to save her from herself." So how do we do that? Reddington says, by making her #1 on the Blacklist, something to this effect. So I got to discover this, in real time. I think of it as a mercy play, as an extension of a hand in some way to get her under the protection of the law, of law enforcement, of the government aegis in some way. So to me, to Cooper, it doesn't mean that she is an enemy. On the other hand, she's in very dangerous waters. It's uncharted waters, but we're used to that. So my putting her on the #1, putting her #1 on the Blacklist is for her own protection, and I, thought I was doing the right thing. Well, again, the position that Cooper's in, actually in this case, dealing with 2 people involved in deeply criminal activity, is again, but it becomes almost a mathematical question. Sometimes, for example, if you multiply a negative number by a negative number, you get a positive result. If you multiply a positive by a negative, no matter how large the positive or how large the negative, you get a negative number. So this is, you have 2 positives, of course you get a positive. So the bottom line is that you have more of an opportunity if you can get one of them to be, to be negative, then it cancels out the other negative. And so we've got that opportunity, maybe we'll get a positive result. I think that, but Cooper would be, I think, satisfied if one of them could be saved in this conflict. And I think it's very clear who he would prefer to be saved, that is Elizabeth Keene. But just because he would prefer that, does that mean necessarily that that's the best thing for his job, his obligation, his duty?